Hey, this is Stu, and of course we're back with Dr. Korde and more talk on Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining us and
Welcome.
talking to us for so long because we
Yeah.
keep you chatting.
Okay.
So this time we wanted to talk a little bit about diet and yoga, or just diet in general, depending on your constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is a lot of yoga practitioners are either vegan or vegetarian, normally from a moral perspective, non-harming, that sort of thing. As far as Ayurveda is concerned, is there any harm in eating meat to the system, or spiritually? Does it get involved with that sort of thing?
No. Ayurveda has never said that.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, it has classified meats and what meats one should be eating in what seasons, or depending on your constitution type, what meat the person should be eating. That is the knowledge that Ayurveda gives us.
So it classifies the meats not in. So in the West we sort of say we've got red meat, we've got white meat, and then we've got fish. But that's not the way that Ayurveda classifies it.
No.
It's different to that.
No. The Ayurveda classification of meats is dependent on the qualities it is going to attribute to your bodies after consumption.
Right. Okay. So how does it divide? What's the best meat for the body?
According to Ayurveda, it depends on the constitutional type, but as what I recommend now, it's normally the goat's meat which I recommend to be the best one for the body.
So no matter what your constitution.
No matter what your constitution is.
So is that the same? So goats are very sort of foraging almost. They very athletic. They climb trees. They do all sorts of climbs hills.
Yes.
Is that the same? We have sheep in the West. We don't really have so many goats.
Yes.
Is it close to that? The meat, is it close to sheep, or is it?
No, it isn't close to sheep as such, but since the country you live in, you need the energy to fight the cold out, then a lamb is what you are supposed to eat over there.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be sort of equivalent to that.
A kind of equivalent, but not totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then pork. Pork is a meat that's often frowned upon, isn't it?
Yes. It is not necessarily frowned upon. In a Vata type of personality, the personality would be allowed to eat a little bit of pork so that he gets grounded a little bit.
Okay.
Yes,
but too much pork, what will that do to you?
Too much pork is going to make you gluttonous first.
Right.
Yeah, you become solid.
So you take on the attributes of the type of meat that you're eating.
Yes.
So with the goats, they're very sprightly, they're springy, they're that sort of thing.
Yeah, they do not add on fat to the body.
Right.
They in fact add to the muscle bulk of the body.
Okay.
Yes.
And so then when we're talking about other forms of meat, maybe from smaller animals like chickens and rabbits and that type of stuff.
Yes.
So chickens, they're a little bit flighty, aren't they?
Yes,
and
they're very flighty
scatty and pecky.
Yes.
So what would that attribute to the body?
It's the same quality it's going to give it to your body.
Right.
Yeah. If you see the chicken, they will eat and pass their stools immediately.
Okay.
So the pitta in the chicken is very high.
Okay.
Yeah. So that meat warms up the body faster.
So if you're already
a pitta type of personality,
person,
you would be asked to avoid
chicken.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you're kapha, then you could maybe
eat a little bit of
chicken.
Eat a little bit of chicken.
Yes. Okay. And fish, how does that fit in with?
It has the same effect on the body. Depends on the variety of fish that you eat.
Okay, because of course, some fish are sluggish. Some are very like tuna is very energetic, powerful fish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can again sort of think. What would be a slow fish? I suppose in England we have those sort of flounders and skate and things like that are bottom fish that sort of.
Yes.
So they would be more.
They're heavier. They go more towards the earth. They just hardly move up for a while and then they go back on the earth.
Yeah. So that would be again more of a grounding, settling type of.
Yes.
Settling type of thing. Okay.
But Ayurveda has never said no to non-vegetarian food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it actually promote it? Does it think it's a good idea?
Yes, it has promoted depending on the work that you do.
Right.
Yeah. If you're going to dig roads and if you're going to be doing a lot of physical labor, that is when you will need the meat to replace or replenish your tissues.
Right.
But if you're going to do a sedentary job, you will not need those many meats to eat.
Right.
Then they get accumulated in the body and then the disease process begins.
Okay. So when we see, because there's a lot of things, there's a very strong surge towards veganism and that in the West.
Yeah.
And we see bodybuilders and Olympic athletes, we say that have got a vegan diet,
Mm-hmm.
are they not the norm that they are able to process those foods and sustain such physicality, whereas they're maybe a little unusual relative to the general public, or is it possible to do that sort of thing?
Then you draw energy from yourself. That is the inbuilt chi that you've got.
Right.
Yeah. If you're not going to replace your energy loss with the diet,
Yeah.
then you need a source of energy, and that's
Yeah.
when you draw the energy from yourself. Or then, yeah.
So if you're drawing it from yourself, is
Then
that
you're
something
overusing it.
you're going to use it up, and then
Yes.
it'll be
Yeah.
not around later?
Yes.
Okay. So if we are, some people also they're on a vegan or a vegetarian diet, and then something happens, and they go to the doctor, and they say, oh, you need to start eating more animal proteins, that sort of thing. So is that the same sort of thing, that they're basically running themselves down a little bit, and they maybe need to bring that into the system?
In my opinion, unless you don't find the right sources of food,
Yeah.
then you can think of going in for animal protein. But very rarely for vegetarianism or veganism have we ascribed to a non-vegetarian food. There are different food materials available on the earth which can produce the same effect as an animal protein would.
So it's not that they need
It's not that they
necessarily
need, no.
to go and take animal proteins.
No.
It's just that they need the right. 'Cause
Right
it's
kind
quite
of
complicated,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Once you start cutting things out, you can quite easily not have everything you
Yes.
need.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think geographical location is another thing that should be influencing the type of food that you eat. Not only where you are, but also where you've come from. Is
Yes.
that right?
Where your genes have come from
Right.
and where you are located presently.
So how
Is-
far back do we go? Where?
Six
how many
generations at
Six
least.
generations. Okay.
Yeah. 7 generations is the right way of saying it.
Okay.
7 generations at least you go back.
So if we were thinking, say for instance, as far as I know, I was born in the UK, and as far as I know, most of my relatives were born in the UK. So how would that influence the type of food that I eat, even though I spend most of my time in hot countries like here or Thailand or Bali?
First thing is that your genes over the 7 generations have developed a capacity to digest certain kinds of food and
Right.
not to digest certain kind of food. A smallest example I can give you, though you've been living in England, tomorrow if you try and eat the meat of a walrus over a long period of time, you will not be able to digest that. But a meat of sheep or lamb,
Yeah.
you would be easily able to digest that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the easiest example I
Yes.
can give you. Similarly, it helps you to digest food, assimilate it, and not create toxins within the body. But your balance has to be maintained in the geographical location you are. If you're going to live in Thailand or you're going to live in Goa and think you can eat a steak,
Yes,
which will be very difficult for you to digest, though you have a genetic capacity to digest it.
but now I'm in a hot country,
Yes.
so it's a different
Yeah.
sort of situation.
It's a different sort of a situation. So you eat what is grown locally over here
Yeah.
rather than what is imported.
So that's also another thing, isn't it? Is the importance of locally grown
Grown
food
food,
rather
yes.
than stuff that's coming.
Stuff that is
too far.
coming, traveling a
True.
distance and coming. Though the quality of the food might be the best of the qualities available. In the sense, you might say that it's a pomegranate contains the best antioxidants that are available, or
Yes.
but it is not meant to be eaten in a country where it is not grown much.
Right.
Though you transport it and use it now. Yeah.
So think about where you've come from, but also where you are. And we have a
Yes.
lot of teachers now, which we'd call traveling teachers. They don't have a fixed abode, a fixed yoga shala where
Yes.
they teach regularly. They move from one country to
Yeah.
the next, one country
Yeah.
to the next.
Yeah.
So what sort of troubles is that going to cause for their constitution, continually going to a different climate, a different type of food?
Exposing to newer situation requires the body to utilize its energy to acclimatize to the situation. Right? Secondly, going there and trying to eat something new will be shocking to the body. So have a diet which is basic, regulated, like rice is an item which can be eaten and digested by any living being.
Okay.
Yeah,
And can be got in most countries
can
nowadays.
be got into the most countries now as well. So that is the most easily digestible food. So if you form that as one part of your meal and have locally grown vegetables cooked to your tune, whatever you would like them to be, and fruit from the local, that's the easiest way you can maintain a balance.
So keep it relatively simple.
Keep it very, very simple.
Right. So in England, we like to, hopefully I'm not overgeneralizing for everybody, but there's, which I probably am, we like to eat, say, we'll have Chinese on Monday and we'll have Mexican food on Tuesday and we'll have Indian food on Wednesday or Thursday. And so we like go through the countries to get lots of different variety. Is that a good idea for the body or not? I notice here a lot of people have the same thing every day. They have fish curry rice every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Is that calmer, nicer for the body?
Yeah, it is calm. Over the years, the body develops capacities to digest certain things. It hasn't happened overnight.
Right.
As a child, you see, first the child will drink the mother's milk only. After that, it will slowly develop the capacity of drinking milk from an external source. After that, you start giving it solids a little more. And then you choose what solids. And you give a certain variety of solids only. You don't change those every day. After it has the capacity to digest it, then you move on to higher levels of food. And then you have the rice and things like that added up to the child's diet. Similar is the situation with an adult. If you're going to give a shock to the body every day that today I will eat Chinese, tomorrow I will eat Mexican, the day after tomorrow it will be Japanese and then Indian. And so the body brain has to process digestive enzymes that will be suitable for digesting the food that has gone inside your stomach, and then assimilating the food, drawing nutrient material outside and throwing the waste material out. So it is a long process of, it's a long sequence of processes that go inside the body. If we are going to shock the body every time, every day, then you are constantly hammering the body to overwork, and there comes a time wherein the body says, I have got no capacity to digest this at all. That's when you start accumulating toxins within your body, because the body has not had the capacity to digest that. It, as I said earlier, ama is a substance which is created by the body when food it consumes is not digestible. Now, ama is a substance which cannot be digested by the body nor can be thrown out of the body. So it remains and finds spaces inside the body which are weak spots of the body, and that becomes the primary cause for a disease.
Right. Okay. So all this chopping and changing is only going to promote that sort of thing.
Yeah. But if you look in the yesteryears in England as well, the food was a similar kind of diet which everybody ate.
It was meat and potatoes and
vegetables, rice, and everything becomes the same. And it's Christmas time that the food changes, and then again Easter comes and then the food changes. But on a regular basis, you had certain kinds of meats that you would eat, certain kinds of fish, the bread, the potatoes, the rice, whatever would come. That's all people would eat. Because of availability today and the taste factor, we have tried to change, considering that this is beneficial to our body, or auto-suggesting it that, oh, I'm going to eat this and this is going to be beneficial to my body. Which in actuality is not.
So what about variety then? Because I think some of the things of changing and having this and that is that through having a lot of different variety, maybe we get all the different types of nutrients we need and that sort of thing. Whereas if we eat the same thing all the time, then can we be missing out on something?
No, we are never missing out on anything. The body is going to absorb. Though the quantities of the nutrient material inside the food content that we eat might not be the same as they exist into food substances which have been said to be rich in nutrient quantity. It is finally the capacity of the body to digest and absorb material out of it, and which the body does.
So if you're not in balance, you could have all the high sources of this, that and the other, but if you don't absorb it,
it's of no use at all.
Not going to do you any good. And so we've got that idea of geographical location, and each geographical location has different seasons, doesn't it? And so should we be eating differently for the different seasons?
Definitely, yes.
Yes.
Now it's summertime over here, and you cannot digest the wintry kind of food that people in India would have been eating, like paneer or things like that.
So things more creamy, more
rich,
saucy, heavy.
More saucy, more heavy, more creamy, more oily. So now you eat food substances which are light and compensate by eating a lot of fruit, which is grown at this part of the year, at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people in the West that maybe, say, take on a vegetarian or vegan diet. They might even go for a raw food diet. Perhaps I'll talk about raw food in a sec with you. And then they want to maintain that throughout the whole year because they got used to a particular thing. But lighter salady type stuff, is that going to support the body in a winter situation?
No, it wouldn't support the body in a winter situation. In the winter situation, you need to enhance the bodily energies by producing more heat within the body, which is going to fight the cold outside.
Right.
A cold food material cannot do that. You need to support the bodily heat by adding in warm food inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or warming up foods. Yeah.
And so can we separate between cooked food and raw food?
Yes.
Is there a difference between, from an Ayurvedic perspective, is there a benefit to eating raw food if it's not sort of, obviously fruits are going to be raw anyway?
Yeah.
But is there a benefit to having something raw as against cooked?
I would put it the other way around and say it is more beneficial to eat something that is cooked than eating something which is raw totally.
Okay, and because?
Yeah, because you have already provided the heat that is required to convert the food material into bodily absorbable substances.
Right.
Yeah, so it is preheated. When it goes inside your body, it is warmed, it is cooked.
And so that makes it more easily
That makes it
digestible?
more easy for digestion.
Because I know sometimes that the food here is often raw and vegan style food. It can produce a lot of gas,
Yes,
can't
it can, because the
it's
body has to fight
Yeah,
to digest it.
yeah. So it's more.
Yeah, so it
it's
has
more
to spend
difficult.
more energy on the food that is consumed to digest it.
Right. Okay. And so if we're living, so is there a benefit to changing the diet? Even so, for myself, I tend to spend most of the time in the heat.
Yeah.
So we organize it that way because I don't like the cold. So we move from heat to heat, which means I'm always eating foods that are relative to the temperature or lighter in style.
Yes.
But would it be beneficial for my body to have a period of time either in a cool temperature,
Yes, of course.
and or also trying to eat heavier types of food when I'm still in a hot country, or should I stick with lighter stuff because I'm always in a hot temperature?
Yeah. If you're always in the hot temperature, it is the best you stick to the light form of food.
Right.
Because then your body will have the capacity to digest it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as the earth is also exposed to these changes
Yes.
in the season, and you can see there is one phase in which you have the entire environment that is energized, and one phase in which the entire environment is drained of the energy.
Yeah.
So these are the two halves of the year, wherein one half you accumulate and the other half you use the accumulated part, and then you come back to accumulation and then you come to using.
So almost like a rest and recovery, and
Yes.
then an expenditure.
Yes.
And so if you like I do, that constantly in the what we're going to call that the growing phase, the using
Yes.
phase, the
Yes.
heat phase,
Yeah.
is that going to have a draining effect over a sustained period of time?
Yes, it will have a draining effect over a sustained period of time. Yeah. So it is the best you have at least 6 weeks or 8 weeks of cold that is exposed to the body, so your body can accumulate.
Over a year or 10 years? Can we keep it down?
Over a year, definitely. But
Over a
even
year.
then, in the warm countries that you talk about, even then the seasons going on over there are slightly cooler, relatively cooler to the temperatures they would be exposed to.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
December and November in Goa is relatively cooler than what February or March would be. But when you talk about the cold in Goa, it
Yeah.
cannot be the same as the cold in England.
Yeah. No, I mean the cold in England, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even worse, as with, you move to Sweden, Norway,
yeah, yeah,
Iceland,
yes,
and a
yes.
lot of Northern Europe.
Yeah. So we may not have those many dips in the temperature, but it's relatively cooler.
It's enough for the body to recognize.
It is
because
enough
when
for the
you're
body
used to the
recognize.
heat,
Yes.
we often laugh about that here because in December we're like coming to practice thinking, oh my God, it's cold here, and it's only like 15 degrees or something.
Yes.
And we've got people coming from Sweden where it's like minus 32 or something like that. And they're saying, what are you talking about? It's not cold at all. It's like, you've gone crazy.
But that's what, it's relative again.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. So that amount of variation, even within the seasonal changes of being in a country for a prolonged period of time, is enough to allow the body to acclimatize, grow and change. So are there certain foods that are like almost the holy grail of foods in Ayurveda that you know, try and get this in your diet? Like it's like turmeric one of them, or things that are like really thought of as like good quality. They provide all of those. Is it 5 or 6?
The 6 tastes.
The 6 tastes. Is there any foods that provide a lot of those different tastes within them? Sometimes it's called superfoods in the West, don't we?
Yeah, it is the design of the thali that you have over there. If you look, it remains the same. It's a bit of rice, a bit of dal, or the protein content is given by the dal.
Yeah.
A bit of ghee, a little bit of pickle, some poppadom stuff, a small amount of salad, and 1 or 2 forms of vegetables. That's the basic diet which any Indian would stick to.
So rather than an individual type of food, that combination.
It's the combination of food that sustains you. And then people who eat non-vegetarian would have a small piece of fish or a small piece of meat with them. That is the basic design. Yeah, and people stick to it throughout the year. It's only in winters that the meats increase a little bit. In summer, the fish increases a little bit,
Because you don't think of things so in the West we often think of, oh, I must have X grams of protein, so much carbohydrate, so much fats in my diet, and this and that. So it's a totally different way of thinking to that,
it's a totally different way of thinking. If you talk about superfoods as such, yes, they have ascribed certain things called as superfoods, and they are the dried form of fruits or dried nuts.
Okay.
Yes.
So like dried apricots or that
dried
type of
apricots,
thing?
dried figs, super dried dates. These form the superfood.
Yeah.
So in people who do not have the capacity to digest this normal food, they are the ones or the patients, we give them these dried form of fruit, so they require less amount of physical energy to digest that and produce energy out of it.
And so then there's foods like onion and garlic that are talked about as far as being too stimulating to the mind if you want to meditate and you want to perform that sort of thing. Is that for everybody or only for people that are really ascribing to a very sort of spiritual path? So if we meditate sort of daily, shall we say, is that going to be too much for the body to be eating, to be successfully able to meditate, to eat onion and garlic?
My guru has totally disagreed to this.
Okay, good.
But as he says, that everything is in moderation.
Right.
Yeah. Your mind cannot be ruled so much by a small tuber unless the Rajasa Bhava increases too much.
Okay.
If you could compare it with alcohol or a large stimulant like meat, onion and garlic are nothing.
So relatively small,
relatively small. It's the amount that goes inside.
Yeah, that you're eating.
Yeah.
So what would that amount, if we could think of putting that in cooking, if we're putting in 1 or 2 cloves or
it wouldn't
half
affect you
an onion, or
it wouldn't affect you in any way.
But a French onion soup maybe.
Yes, it wouldn't.
With some nice little floaty bits on top. I get quite hungry now when we talk of food. Although that's quite hot anyway, so it wouldn't be any good for this time of year. So, but turmeric is one of those ones that crops up so much here. I hear it's, you put it on cuts, you drink it with honey and lemon, and turmeric seems to be used for so many different things.
Yes, it is. It is a wonder herb.
So what's the reason for that?
Its capacities of healing.
Right.
Any part. Its capacities to penetrate and enter any path. That is the most wonderful thing about it. And its capacities to detoxify the food.
Because it seems to be used to detox for food also, but also like almost antiseptic on cuts and everything as well.
Yes.
And so is there something else like turmeric as well? Because I'm trying to think of the other ones, but turmeric always sort of comes to my mind.
Yes.
Is there another one that there is used very commonly for all sorts of things?
All spices are used in the Indian food, but they are all used in moderation. Today, because of the taste
Right,
and the food industry trying to uh, draw human beings towards food more,
right. To
yeah, and
make us
make
want
you
more
eat
stuff.
more,
Yes.
and crave for food more.
Yeah.
That is when the amount of salt has increased in the food, the amount of sugar has increased in the food, and the amount of sourness has increased in the food. They make the food tangy, salty, spicy, and sour,
Yes.
so that you crave for it more and more.
More and more, and they sell more stuff.
They sell more stuff. Yeah.
Do you think this is a little bit of an aside, I suppose, but really, what I'm noticing a lot in India now or in the last 10 years or so is with the increasing in affluence, I think people are eating a lot more.
Yes.
And there is quite an obesity issue, I would say, with the wealthy, the semi-wealthy.
Yes.
Is that going to be because of the population
Yes.
of India, that could be a very difficult problem to deal with, do you
Yes,
think?
it is going to be a horrendously difficult problem to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless we are cautious of what we do.
Hmm. So advice for people as far as what they should be monitoring in their constitution, diet-wise, as far as their overall diet goes,
Yeah,
creating, how to create that balance.
yeah.
Is there a difference between not only volume, of course, because depending on your body type and how easily you
Yes.
burn it off, but particular food types that you should or shouldn't have if you're a particular constitution?
Yeah, food types for a Vata type of person, he shouldn't be eating dried food a lot. He shouldn't be eating dried forms of bread. He should be eating food which is more oily and more greasy in kind, so
Okay.
that the airiness is reduced and the dryness in his body is reduced. For a Pitta type of person, he should eat food that is not going to agitate the Pitta that is already existing in his body.
So that's
he
the
should
fire,
yeah, the
yeah.
fire. So he should use food material which are really cooling and going to support his body rather than distort his body or increase the heat in his body. For a Kapha type of person, his quantity of food should be lesser. Eat a lot of hot food and eat in quantities and moderation, so that the corpulence in the body is not increased, the fat in the body is not increased, obesity doesn't strike.
And so when we talk about cooling foods, is that yogurts and curds and that sort of thing, or
No. The best form, the best antidote for any Pitta type of person is the ghee.
is the ghee?
Yes.
Because of course is that the same as clarified butter? Is that what we call clarified
It is the
butter
term
in
that
India?
is used to say clarified butter.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course in the West it's like, why would we eat melted butter? You know, it's like difficult to get our head around
Yes.
wanting to add more butter, unless you're French, of course. They add loads of butter into their food.
Yes.
Sorry if I'm alienating the whole French nation now. But yeah, the thought of adding ghee or also like drinking ghee as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Is quite a difficult concept for us to tussle with. So what are the benefits? What changes between like butter as it is as a slab of butter
Yes.
and ghee when it's being heated and
Yeah. Ghee is derived by not merely melting butter, but removing the water content in the butter totally and the milk solids that remain in the butter totally. So what you get is the best part out of the cow's milk or the buffalo's milk, whatever you're
using.
Yeah. Because it is prepared by giving it heat, that means it becomes very light for digestion. Because it is prepared by giving it heat, it doesn't have the capacity to stick within the body. It goes in, the body can utilize it and then throw it out. It doesn't have the capacity to stick within the body and grow your weight or increase your weight.
Right.
Yeah.
And does it have any cleansing qualities?
It has a wonderful lot of cleansing qualities. It can be used as an external applicant, and the older the ghee is, the better are its medicinal values.
So once the process has gone through, you can actually store it.
You can actually store it, and in India people would store it for generations together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it would never get spoiled. It would smell a little off, but the capacity to heal by applying it on wounds, or using it in your eyes, or using it as a medicinal, internal medicine, wonderful. Absolutely.
So and then the older the better, really.
Older the better, definitely, yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. I think we'll leave the diet bit there because I want to have time to just ask you about cleansing.
Yes.
So we'll do that next.
Yeah.